Greetings and salutations, everyone. Tonight I'm going to bring you 4 terrifying Dogman encounters. Before we get on with the encounters, though, I'd like to thank all of my subscribers for all of the kind words that you guys have sent me in prayers. Also, I'd like to leave a little reminder. My second channel's link is in the description, as well as my PayPal link to keep this channel commercial free and my merch link. So please feel free to check those out. I will be putting up some new t-shirts very soon. And with that, let's get on with the encounter, shall we? Tonight's first encounter comes to us from Ada, Oklahoma. One Saturday night, my teenage daughter was bored, so I said, let's go out of town on the hill and skywatch. Maybe we'll see a satellite. And she saw something up there. She thought maybe it was a satellite. She said, do they zig and zag and go in circles? I said, no. Her vision was so much better than mine, I had to get out my night vision goggles. It was zigging and zagging, going in circles in reverse direction. So she got bored with that after a while, but I certainly wasn't getting bored with it. So she was ready to go, and so since I do some bigfooting occasionally, I decided to scan the tree line with my binoculars, and when I did, I noticed some eye shine. So I said, Jessie, look. And I had her look through the night vision, and she said, I can see its ears. Now, I don't understand what she's talking about because I'm totally thinking Bigfoot. She said, I'm scared. I don't like it. I want to get into the truck, and I think you should too. I said, no, why don't you keep looking through the night vision goggles? Maybe you'll see it run away. That's my brilliant strategy. She said, no, I'm not having any part of this, and she gets in the truck. I'm looking through the night vision. I'm walking towards where I seen the eyes, and when I get maybe 30 yards away, finally I notice what she's talking about. There's 2 ears sticking up on the top of a head, just like a German shepherd's ears, and then my heart went into my throat. I realized I'm throwing this old laser beam out, and it's got its eyes squinted shut. And so I dropped the laser beam off its face. When I did, both eyes slowly began to open up, and just gives me the chills down my spine. I started walking backwards. I was still looking through the binoculars. I didn't want to take my eyes off of it, but I finally had to, and then I just panicked, hurrying up and trying to find it and make sure that it was still there. Then I just turned around and got back in the truck. I told her I finally saw the ears that she was talking about, and she said, I tried to tell you. She was on borderline disrespectful to me, but I felt that I had it coming, so I let it slide. Tonight's second Dogman encounter comes to us from Southwest Florida. It was June, I think, around 9 p.m. I was out back on the patio. At the time, no one had fences around their property because all of us knew the other families around the area. The only exception was the family across the street from us. They had a 7-foot-tall cinder block wall behind their home. They had a large wooded piece of property and kept equipment out there. The dad was in construction, and the wall enclosed 3 sides of the property. It was hot out and a slight breeze, no clouds, and starry. As I sat there, you could hear the dogs in the neighborhood begin to bark. Then everything got quiet. A lone howl started, so I howled back. I do this rather well. I'd watch Nat Geo and would mimic wolf cries. Anyway, this went on for about 5 minutes each time the howl from the other end got closer. Down the road are train tracks that run north to south. The sound seemed to come from that direction. I started to get spooked as the howling stopped. Our yard had bushes and a tree on the side where the sound was coming from. My hair on my arms and neck started to stand up, so I felt like I should go in. As I stood, I heard a movement in the bushes. I glanced over and saw something move. I didn't wait to see what it was, so I booked it into the house and stood by the door, which had glass panes in it. I watched as something very large and dark moved about the bushes. It moved away, and I could no longer see it from my vantage point. I went to the front porch to look out the windows, hoping to get a better look at whatever was out there, but it never came out that way. So I went to bed and to read for a while to calm down. About less than an hour later, my brother came home. He came to my room, and as white as paper. He was shaking all over. His eyes were the size of saucers. I asked him if he was okay. Now, my brother is the sort that has an explanation for anything unusual. And he's a big guy, so for him to be in this state was not normal. He said, "I need you to come with me right now. I'll explain when we get out to my truck." I was still dressed, so I got up and went with him. When we got outside, I asked what's going on. He told me there was something in the road by the tracks he needed to show me first. I was not happy about that, as I just had my own experience with something from that way. As we got there, it looked as if something had exploded all over the road. There was blood everywhere, as if something was mowed down in that spot. But there was no body parts anywhere. My brother related then what he had seen coming down the road. I was coming home, and as I got closer to the tracks, there was this huge thing lying in the road. I thought it must be a mastiff or a Great Dane in the road. But as I pulled up to it, it didn't look like a dog I had ever seen. It was hairy. Its head and nose were twice the size of a dog. The body was not a dog, just dog-like, but much, much bigger. It was all over the place. There was an arm on the road, not a dog, a human arm. There was no trace of anything when we got there, and it was only minutes that it took us to get there. I said to get the hell out of there now, and we went back home. I told him what I experienced just before he got home. A couple days later, my sister came to me and said that she had been seeing a large dog prowling around at night. It was huge, and she said she saw it across the street as she sat on the porch. I told her what my brother and I saw, and not to be outside alone until we could find out what it was. We got together and decided to stake out the yard over the next night. Sure enough, it was back in the neighbor's yard. This thing was the size of a Shetland pony, black in color. We had flashlights and turned them on, and it took off to the back wall beside the house. Their dog was going crazy. They had a small terrier. We watched this dog thing scale the wall. The neighbor came out to see what was going on, and we shouted there was something in his yard. He went back in and grabbed his pistol and went out back. By that time, it was gone. Encounter 3. So I can't stop thinking about the time when I was younger and was hanging out with my female friend. We were only 8 and 7 at the time. Now we're about 18. Anyways, her dad and my dad were out in the shop while her and I were inside playing with Nerf guns. But we got bored and decided to go out and talk to them. As we walked out the door, I looked over her shoulder and looked out to the pond. It was getting dark out, but we have this very bright shop light, and I could see out to the other side of the pond. On the other side, I saw what looked to be 2 giant dog-like creatures walking on all fours. Possibly giant coyotes, something, I don't know. They just walked from the west end to the east and walked off into the field next to the property. Both of us screamed as we both saw them and ran to our dads. I wanted my dad to go and be a hero and shoot the things, but neither of them believed us. Both of us were completely normal kids, no scary movies, nothing that could make our imaginations peak into scary category. There were trees behind the creatures that reach about 20 feet high. The heads of the creatures reached at least half the height. I went out there the next day with my dad, and we did find tracks, but the tracks weren't deep. Our fourth and final Dogman encounter comes to us from Mississippi. So I never believed in the supernatural until I was like 18, and me and my friends played with a Ouija board. Story for another time. Anyways, after the ensuing craziness from that escapade, I'm a full-on believer. On with the actual sighting. I live in a very rural part of Mississippi. I believe my town has something like 247 people in it. Everybody knows everybody. Weird things have happened there before, like animals being slaughtered or going missing, that sort of thing. Naturally, we chalked it up to coyotes or other critters. Now, I'm an avid hunter, so I was heading out to the woods with my bow, a fully decked out Matthew Creed. I got out a little earlier than usual, so it was still pretty dark. I've never minded the woods before, so all I planned on doing was relaxing in my stand for a while, as I didn't feel like stalking today. It's not too far away from daylight, so the birds and other wildlife are starting to make their morning calls. Usually pretty peaceful, right? I swear to God, in the span of a second, everything in that patch of woods shut up at the same exact time. Dead silence. It didn't even try to be subtle. That alone scared the piss out of me. So naturally, I'm scared, self-froze, and just listening for anything. My first thought was, oh shit, something's out here with me, which freaked me out even more. Then I started to think maybe it was just a bear or a bobcat, which I still was terrified to meet up with, but at least it gave me a logical answer. I figured I could hear a bear coming, but I knew big cats were renowned for stalking people without them knowing, which scared the daylights out of me. I decided to keep moving towards my stand, post up, and just point my bow down the tree. After what seemed like forever, I friggin' made it. I shuffled up the stand, pulled out my knife just in case, and just listened. Dawn was definitely breaking now, which made me feel better. Still no signs of wildlife, which was getting more and more eerie. Now my stand is perched on the side of a creek. The creek wasn't very deep, like maybe to the top of your ankle. About the only sound I could hear was the slight noise of the running water. Then I hear something to my right, and it's running fast. I instantly raise my bow and wait, shitting my pants. It's getting louder and louder, closer as well. I almost screamed when I saw this bastard. It literally looked like something out of Dog Soldiers, only more muscular. This thing busted through the brush, ran down the slope and through the creek, then disappeared on the other side. I've seen some shit, let me tell you, but I was shaking like a newborn baby. I didn't ease off my drawstring for like 10 minutes, which is a long time to hold a bow, FYI. I mean, this thing was huge, like 6.5 to 7.5 feet, 250 pounds of holy shit. And I've seen bears and that like before, but they didn't run like that. Anyways, after that, the sun really started to show and the birds started chirping. I had calmed myself down, so I noped the hell out of there in a hurry. While I was terrified at the time, I was definitely one of my coolest memories to look back on. I'm just gonna move my stand and hunt elsewhere from now on. LOL. Wow, that was some awesome 4 Dogman encounters. I love Dogman encounters. They are so fascinating. One of my favorite cryptids out there. I hope you guys enjoyed them, and I have a ton more of stories. I've been doing research. I'm going to have some more subscriber stories. I've got to talk to a source of mine to get some more of those. I will be calling you very soon. I know you're listening. And with that, guys, thanks for everything once again, and I hope you guys enjoyed these. With that, have a good night.